It's a sunny day, fishing my cares away. It's such a sunny day, I'm letting them go. Well, I'm halfway to a grand slam and I've yet to catch a walleye. This has been my first drift of the day. That's the Gold on Gold Signature Series Awakening Angler I1 blade bait. I started deeper on the flat. I'm going to go all the way into the weed line. It's a kind of a northeast wind. It's not blowing very hard. It's a perfect drift, no bags, no nothing. I'm just trying to cover water and see what I see. I mean, I'm seeing some marks scattered, nothing. I haven't found a school of anything that I want to spot lock on, so I'm just drifting. And it's been I'm going to go all the way into the weed line. I'm in 18 and a half foot now. I got about another 100 yards, and then I'll throw swim bait around for a minute, and then I'll go back out and try it again. Stay tuned. Look at my walleye. I had to think that one up. Little guy. 13, 14 maybe. So that's Mr. Green Jeans right there. 3/8 ounce Northland head. It's a little heavy, but it's already rigged. I use this one typically in deeper water. I'm only in 18 right now. I use that heavier head and I scrub it along the bottom. That fish was just off bottom, and if it was the same one, he whacked it 3-4 times. And that is a Kitech 3.8 Fat Swing Impact in blue truce. A great color, and one you have to have in multiple sizes and shapes from Kitech, because that is a fish catching color. Blue truce that's a Larry Mazer tip. And Larry is one of the best A-rig fishermen I've ever met, and his money bait in the middle is always a blue truce. What is up, everybody? We're gonna go up and make our last drift here of the morning. See what happens. It's been picking here or there for me this morning. I've caught fish every place I've went, but one here, one there, a lot of randos. Walleyes, perch, sunnies have all been players. But nothing really to write home about. I've probably fished 5 different spots. Maybe made 2 to 3 drifts in each spot. I ended up down here on the rocks. Just been kind of all over. It's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful Saturday morning. It feels like November today. Cold, not cool. Cool. It was in the high 20s, low 30s when I left this morning. Although there wasn't a frost. It was in the 30s maybe. I don't know. I didn't see a frost. Sun came up, gorgeous day. It's blowing out of the northwest, but not bad at all. Not like yesterday. That wind was gnarly yesterday. No, it wasn't that bad. Just trying to get lined up, then we'll start fishing here. I'm going to come all the way up into 10 foot on these rocks. I'm going to start by dragging a craw on the rocks until I get to about 12, 13 feet maybe. I'm in 10 now, 9, 10, 13, 14 feet if I haven't done anything yet with dragging the craw through the rocks. then I will switch over, throw a swim bait around for a few minutes, and then finish up on the deep end of the rocks where it goes down and it transitions from rocks to sand. That's a good line right there. That's an important player for walleyes and smallmouth. A lot of times they'll follow that edge where the rocks end and the sand starts. I'll throw a blade bait out there. Big time SU game today. That's why it's 5 minutes to 11. We're gonna finish this drift out and then I'm getting out of here. We gotta go get some lunch and be in position before the things start. SUBC noon kickoff. 7-2 sure would look nice. I'd like to see us stay at that 2-loss mark until we meet Miami at the end of the season. Be like the old days with those McNabb years when Miami was so good and so were we. Man, those were some games. Those were some games. Who remembers McNabb driving down at the end of that one game, throwing up on like the 2-yard line and still scored a touchdown the next play? Boy, he was a lot of fun to watch in college. Oh, and the pros, but boy, when we had him here, that was special. I loved watching McNabb. And this kid that Miami's got now, this quarterback Cam Ward, they say he's the real deal. And Miami's going to be probably a top 5 team if they keep their nose clean by the time we get to that last game of the season matchup. I want to say it's in the Dome. I don't know if that's 100% true, but I want to say that it was in the Dome. All right, well, I'm in that 12.5-foot line. I'm going to make one more cast, dragging this football head on the bottom. Then I'll throw a swim bait around for a few minutes. Then we'll make a few casts with the blade bait by the time we drift off this edge. Well, let's see if we can get something going here, man. Let's get an out on a high note fish. Had a lot of fun the past 3 days out brown trout fishing in Western New York. I look forward to that guide trip every year. Brett and Steve are great guys, and we have a lot of fun. And getting to spend 3 days with my buddy Captain Todd Shelter is always great. Life is life. You don't get to see your buddies a lot of times as often as you would like, but knowing you can go and spend a little time with them sure is nice. And I got to I have one of my very closest friends in the world, an old Army buddy of mine, lives right there, not far from Oak Orchard and Sandy Creek and that whole area. And so I go see him and his wife every year. And we were just talking. They celebrated their 30th anniversary just recently. Their daughter got married this summer, and they. I was there the night that they met. We were out at the club. We were young in the military and far from home. And Kimberly lassoed my buddy Mike. Boy, the best thing that ever happened to him. And I know that they're probably going to watch this. But everything, it's all love when I talk about the two of them. We've all been friends since we were 19 years old, and it's wonderful to see them. It was funny. It's funny how things work. I had been thinking all day about those guys while I was fishing, knowing I was going to see them that night. And I started thinking about another buddy of ours, Brother Bagwell, my old buddy Kurt. And the three of us were kind of like the Three Stooges. We all had a pretty good circle of friends in the Army. I'll never forget it. Some of those guys are some of the best friends I've ever had in my life, and I could call, and the other night was proof of it. I could call them up on a whim and say, hey, let's get together, and we all pick right up where we left off. I love that. I love it more than words can say. And so I was thinking about this other guy that we used to hang out with all the time, and I hadn't talked to Kurt in years. And, Mike and him were real close, and I made a point to remember when I got there to ask Mike if he still talked to him at all. And before we even got going and really said hello, he's like, "Oh, gosh, I was just talking to Bags the other day." And I'm like, "No kidding, really? I was just thinking about him 3 hours ago." And he goes, I said, "Can we call him?" He goes, "Yeah, sure." And he picked up the phone, and Mike says, "You'll never guess who's standing here with me." And I said hello, and it was so awesome. It's you're adults now. We were just kids then, and he was telling me that he's getting ready to retire from 25 years at in the state of Oklahoma health system, and we all made plans. We're going to try and put together a little reunion, but those kind of connections are just wonderful. It was so good to hear from those guys, and to hear from Kurt, and to see Mike and Kim, and be able to bond. It seems so long ago. It just seems so long ago, and we could all say that about the chapters of our lives that are in the past long ago. Sometimes it's really, really hard to remember what it was like, and reconnecting with some of those people from that time frame help everyone's collective memory refresh everybody else's. So everybody remembers different things too. It was awesome. And I had a great 3 days. The fishing out there was not spectacular. We were at the Oak for the first day and a half, Oak Orchard Creek out there in Albion, and there were fish there, but there weren't a ton of fish there. And every place in this state is suffering from a severe drought. The Salmon River Reservoir is almost dry. The Salmon River is prime steelhead season, and it's low. I don't know if I've heard that the drift boats are not able to float anymore, or it's really rough to do. We need rain. We need rain. I don't know if the fact that we had almost no snow last year is finally catching up to us. But our watersheds and our water tables are low. And I don't know that necessarily people realize that. It's one thing to get enough water to keep your grass green. It's another thing to have the water table, subterranean water table, be enough to where we're getting this runoff, and it's not just so bone dry everywhere. And that affected the fishing out there. I mean, most of those fish, a lot of it's sight fishing because it's low, crystal clear water. And we were fly fishing, and it's sight fishing, and you're trying, and even then those fish blend right in. But, what do we got here? What do we have here? Oh, it's bottom. I got a big one. There were fish there, but again, not a lot. And that's a brown trout factory in the fall. They're coming up to spawn. Tell you one thing you see out there a lot now is Atlantic salmon. A lot of Atlantic salmon, which are great. They're really an amazing fish, and we're here in New York, but here in the Great Lakes, we're conditioned by Pacific salmon, which are a different animal. Your Pacific salmon are a one and done situation. They spawn one time. They live anywhere from 3 to those giants out in the Kenai system in Alaska. They're like 6 or 7 year salt fish. They're a little different species. They stay out longer in the ocean, so they get bigger. I mean, that's why they get 100-pounders there. But we're conditioned to the Pacific salmon around here that again, they're a one and done. They spawn one time and they die, which has given them the horrible reputation and given people the feeling that they can disrespect them because, oh, they're going to die anyways, which so are we. We don't get to just go around and shoot each other. But the Atlantics are a little different. The Atlantics, much like a trout, can spawn multiple times in their life, and which means that when they're on their spawning migration, they're still actively, I don't want to necessarily say actively feeding, but I don't think they're passing up all those eggs that are in the system, even though they're dropping their eggs. They certainly seem to be willing biters. They're super acrobatic. They're a lot of fun. I'd like to see more of them. Relatively, it's a different situation. You know, we don't. The Atlantic salmon that's a federal fish, where they get the money for that in New York State, and you know, I don't know. They were the original species of salmon in the Salmon River on the eastern end and in Lake Ontario, because they actually, in those days pre-Civil War, came all the way in from the Atlantic Ocean. They ran up the St. Lawrence River to Lake Ontario, and then would come up the Salmon River. And in those days, before there was dams and diversions, they could get all the way up into the Tug Hill Plateau from the ocean, spawn, and then turn around and go all the way back out. Imagine that. That is incredible. That is an unbelievable spawning migration. So it was cool. It wasn't real cool. We spent the last day and a half searching all the little creeks out there, because anything and everything that dumps into Lake Ontario will get a run of something in it. But everything was low and clear. Low and clear, low and clear, low and clear. And listen, we caught enough fish to keep ourselves interested, and we had some beautiful fish, and you saw some of the pictures yesterday in the video, and there was a lot of smiles and a lot of laughs. So, you know, sometimes you gotta be aware of what will really make your fishing trip a success, and what matrix you use to judge that success by. You know, we all want to smash them every time we go out. Sometimes Mother Nature has other ideas. So, in my opinion, it was a successful trip had by all. Some great memories. And still, some world-class trout. I mean, both of our customers in 3 days of fishing landed and held a trout that was a brown trout that was either at 10 or, I always get this thing stuck when I try to put it on. And that's pretty incredible. Those are big fish. Big fish. Beautiful, big brown trout. So, all right, let's go, Cuse. I'm heading home. Thanks, everybody. Keep your temper.